Joe Biden is now trying to adopt Donald Trump's trade policies in order to fight Donald Trump. So yesterday, Joe Biden announced new tariffs on China. Now, I will remind you that Joe Biden once suggested in 2019 that this was a terrible idea. Donald Trump put tariffs on Chinese products, not just because he sought to protect American domestic manufacturing. That was sort of a side effect. It was mostly because China actively manipulates its own market, and in doing so, props up a regime that is opposed to that of the United States. The Chinese are, in fact, a geopolitical opponent of the United States. But Joe Biden at the time was very angry at Donald Trump for putting tariffs on Chinese products. In 2019, he tweeted this, quote, "Trump doesn't get the basics. He thinks his tariffs are being paid by China. Any freshman econ student could tell you that the American people are paying his tariffs. The cashiers at Target see what's going on. They know more about economics than Trump. Hashtag Team Joe." Well, yesterday, Joe Biden came out and announced a series of new tariffs on goods made in China. 25% on steel and aluminum. You ready for your prices to go up on pretty much everything? Get ready. 25% on steel and aluminum. 50% on semiconductors. 100% on electric vehicles. 50% on solar panels. China is determined to dominate these industries. I'm determined to ensure America leads the world in them. Well, as it turns out, tariffs on those products does not mean that America will dominate those industries. It means that we will produce bloated versions of those particular products on an economic level. Now, again, there may be excellent reasons to tariff China for national security reasons, but the idea that it is economically helpful to the United States to engage in tariffing of these products is absurd. It's not true. Tariffs harm the party that ends up footing the bill, which is the American consumer. Effectively, tariffs are a subsidy from the American consumer to particular types of American producer. Now, there are reasons sometimes to implement tariffs. Again, those reasons have to do with national security or key industries that are necessary for national security. That's not what Joe Biden is doing here. Understand that's not what Joe Biden is doing here. Joe Biden is attempting to backfill the fact that he has regulated American business out of competitiveness. That's what's actually happening here. So you'll notice that the products that Joe Biden mentions right there with regard to the tariffs, they're largely having to do with the production of, for example, electric vehicles, right? And solar panels and green tech. Why is he having to tariff the goods made in China in this industry? Because he is regulating that Americans use those products. So the reality is that Americans are not in love with electric vehicles. One of the reasons that Joe Biden is having a really tough time in the Rust Belt states is because those states are big producers. Pennsylvania is a big producer of shale oil, for example, and Joe Biden is fighting against shale oil. Michigan is a producer of cars, and Joe Biden is killing the car industry by mandating EVs. He's driving up prices on American consumers. And then China's coming in and undercutting those prices, robbing Michigan of those jobs. That is because of Joe Biden's regulatory structure. If Joe Biden didn't have that regulatory structure, Michigan would compete with China by putting out gas-powered vehicles that are cheaper and that people seem to want more. And yet Joe Biden is still attempting to maintain that this is some sort of win for the American consumer. Again, this is a problem created by Joe Biden. Unlike Trump's tariffs, which were national security designed, what Joe Biden is doing here is economically driving up the costs on American business by creating environmental regulations and EV demand from the government. And then, in order to fight the fact that those prices get undercut by China, which is subsidizing the industry, he tariffs that. So now we all pay more for our electric vehicles. And he's going to do that to drive down prices in the middle of an inflationary spiral. That makes no sense. Tariffs increase prices. That's what they do. They are designed to do that. So you're in the middle of an inflationary spiral in which prices are too high and people are paying more for pretty much everything. And Joe Biden is driving up regulations. And then to compensate for his overregulation, he is then tariffing imports. Genius level stuff. Remember, it is Joe Biden's EPA that decided that they were going to push forward an electric vehicle mandate. I've been recently telling you about the greatest invention, maybe of all time, the pod cover by 8 Sleep. Well, today, I want to share some exciting news. The pod just got an upgrade. 8 Sleep has launched its newest generation, the Pod 4 Ultra. The Pod 4 Ultra not only cools and heats automatically, it now also elevates at your command. This high-tech marvel is clinically proven to give you up to 1 hour more quality sleep every night. A precious extra hour we could all use. I know. You might be wondering how this could get any better. Well, for those snore-heavy nights, the pod can actually detect your snoring and then automatically lift your head by a few degrees to improve airflow and stop you or your partner snoring. I've been using 8 Sleep for a few weeks now. I'm still floored by the results. Gone are the nights of tossing and turning or getting up in the middle of the night to adjust the thermostat. Reclaim your sleep by going to 8sleep.com/Shapiro. Use code Shapiro to get $350 off the Pod 4 Ultra. 8Sleep is currently shipping to the US, Canada, UK, Europe, and Australia. Visit 8sleep.com/Shapiro. Again, that's 8sleep.com/Shapiro. Use code Shapiro today. That's 8sleep.com/Shapiro. According to the Wall Street Journal, this is back in March, the EPA's new tailpipe emissions rule is a plan to eliminate gas-powered cars. EVs made up less than 8% of new auto sales last year. More than half were Tesla. They accounted for less than 4% of General Motors and Ford sales. Foreign luxury automakers like BMW, Mercedes, Porsche will have an easier time meeting the Biden mandates because their affluent customers can more easily afford EVs. The average price of a new EV is roughly $50,000. Only two cost less than $40,000 as of December: the Chevy Bolt and the Nissan Leaf. The companies are heavily subsidizing EVs with profits from gas-powered cars, which means the middle-class Americans are paying more for their gas-powered vehicles to subsidize the price on EVs. So Joe Biden is crushing the car industry. According to the Wall Street Journal, not long ago, it was cheaper to fuel up an EV than a gas-powered car. No longer, thanks to the government's force-fed renewable transition, which is raising electricity prices. Fueling up a Ford F-Series truck now costs about $17 per 100 miles on average, compared with $17.75 for an F-150 Lightning with mostly home charging and $26.39 with mostly commercial chargers. Again, this is what Democratic left-wing economic policy looks like. What it looks like is creating massive barriers to productivity and innovation, and then compensating with yet more regulation that increases the prices in the middle of an inflationary spiral. Absolutely ridiculous policy here from Joe Biden. Here is U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai say, oh, yeah, by the way, sure, Joe Biden reversed himself on tariffs, but, he had to.
I know that these new tariffs are seen as more targeted and strategic, but the administration has chosen to keep in place those Trump-era tariffs on some $300 billion worth of goods, which Biden himself had said in 2019 that Americans are paying for. So why make that decision to keep it in place, and aren't you concerned that it's going to keep prices elevated?
So first of all, let me say a couple things. In terms of the price that Americans paid for in the previous era, some of that, maybe a lot of it, was about the chaos and unpredictability that it created and the escalation that resulted. And not only have we not seen the problematic practices subside, in some areas we have seen them get worse. And in that light, there is actually no reason for us, no justification to relieving the tariff burdens on the trade with Beijing.
So that is an admission that Donald Trump was right when he did it, according to the Biden administration, but he's still wrong somehow. Joe Biden tried to play this off as a win yesterday. He said Trump failed to boost exports. Can we be clear about something? You're not boosting exports when you ban imports. That's not how that works. When you tariff imports, all you are doing is maintaining the too high cost structure of domestic production. Tariffs are a protectionary measure on behalf of certain industries at the expense of the American consumer. That is what they are. And yet here he is saying that it's supposed to boost our export market. How? Please explain how tariffs are going to boost the American export market.
Folks, these key sectors, my administration is combining investments in America with tariffs that are strategic and targeted. It's a smart approach. Compare that to what the prior administration did. My predecessor promised to increase American exports and boost manufacturing, but he did neither. He failed.
Okay, so he failed, supposedly, which is why his economy was leaps and bounds better than Joe Biden's. We didn't have 40-year highs in inflation. We didn't have stagnation in terms of the employment market. Again, Joe Biden is a terrible president on the economy, and it is why he is sinking in the polls. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.